Chapter 2. The Hero and the Beautiful Tragedy. Fragility and heroism. Everyone aspires to be the hero of their story, yet only a select few are prepared to endure the trials and tribulations necessary to shape one. Everyone lives a story of tragedy, and you better realize that because your story could end up being a tragedy without turning you into a hero. God, or the hero, confronts the unknown, returns reborn, and shares his gifts with the world. A hero must have a noble aim and be good and humble. A hero is imperfect. He does not overindulge in pleasure and fears giving up his virtues. Your fragility to be shattered is a precondition of your heroism. It's realistic, and there's that sense that you're not perfect and are within limits. Your morality is made from the capacity to be evil, and choosing not to be evil. That is the action that makes you good. Morality is made from your weakness turning to strength. If you're born perfect, did you earn your heroism? No, because overcoming your personal struggles and tragedies is what makes you a hero. We're living a story, but maybe we're living someone else's story through our actions and cultural conditioning. We conform to the status quo. Conformity leads to relinquishing our choices and values, thus impacting everything we could be. You could also be living a story of tragedy. Like a domino effect, your life will fall apart the more you engage in negative catalysts. If you are not aware of it, all your choices and circumstances can lead to your life ending in a painful, rapid death through self-destruction. There are two extremes in life, a life of eudaimonia, or evil and nihilism. You choose the good life through eudaimonia, or self-creation and self-overcoming. The more responsibility you bear upon your shoulders, the faster you flourish, leading to a well-lived, meaningful life. Nothing shall be spared in the doing of right and good, not even our lives. The second extreme is a pathway of resentment, bitterness, rejection, murder, and genocide. We strive for the heroic because we wish to be the hero, thereby the main character in our lives. But sadly, many of us are not. In our stories, many of us deny that what we wish to become may be impossible. Adopting specific roles or character traits may make it seem impossible due to how we were nurtured or because of what is deeply rooted in our nature. As the English poet William Shakespeare remarked, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages." While we strive to validate our existence through acts of sacrifice, the complexities faced by new generations challenge the starkness of extremes. In the context of World War II, the moral clarity was evident. The Nazis were unequivocally evil, and the Allies were compelled to liberate Europe from their reign of terror. However, the lines are blurred now. We do not know exactly what we are rebelling against, even though some, especially the arrogant and ignorant youth, are woke or see clearly. So, the present generations are at war with spirituality but mainly with themselves. Speaking as a U.S. resident and judging from what I have seen in my country, the current youth live a life where everything is spoon-fed to them, have no reason to complain, and remain ungrateful. Some communities struggle financially, among other aspects, yet their lives are more prosperous and meaningful than those with everything. Their struggle is far more meaningful than that of those who have nothing to fight for because their battles have been won for them. However, they have not won the war. But we cannot generalize or segregate. As everybody knows, every group has its demons and angels. Individuals need to believe that their self-sacrifice is more significant than them and heroic. Therefore, it is meaningful. We do not live alone on our natural needs, which include food, water, and shelter. We need meaning to sustain us. Man is willing to sacrifice his life for country, society, and family, even opting to shield comrades from harm by throwing himself on a grenade, a display of the utmost generosity and self-sacrifice. However, the challenge lies in the fact that the modern youth no longer perceive the actions set by their culture as truly heroic, timeless, and profoundly meaningful. The current societal crisis revolves around a diminished sense of heroism, affecting every facet of our social existence. You are allowed to ask yourself how miserable your life is, how much of that misery is your actions, and how much of it is the universe hating you. Let's assume it's 50-50. That's good news because at least you can make your life 50% better through your actions. Therefore, you should aim to improve things, and you'll see how much unnecessary suffering you can eliminate. Help yourself and stop complaining. Do what is right for you, and positive compound interests will ensue. In contributing to a community, the goal is not merely fixing immediate issues, but undergoing a transformative journey. Imagine rebuilding a city, aligning it with a visionary perspective to enhance functionality, efficiency, and aesthetics, and fostering an environment for people to thrive amidst life's challenges. This objective is not just about revitalizing the city, but evolving into a constant force for its well-being, the ultimate achievement. In my own experience at a trauma hospital during the COVID-19 epidemic, I started as a transporter and later became a phlebotomist, driven by a desire to be of service. While I may not save everyone, I aimed to make a meaningful difference in the lives of those I encountered. Amidst an atmosphere of depression and anxiety among medical staff and fearful patients, I committed to performing my duties with diligence, efficiency, and a touch of warmth. Additionally, I sought to infuse moments of laughter, aiming to bring out the child within everyone, providing not only physical support but also a sense of comfort and joy in a challenging environment. You're far more useful than you think, even if you don't have a high school diploma, skills, or education. You see that everywhere, especially in hospitals. Even the most expendable person can be helpful. Housekeeping doesn't take skills, but it takes humility and pride to do a well-done job. Hospitals would resemble huge dumpsters if it weren't for housekeepers. Transporters, as well. Someone needs to take their patients to their tests and help with CPR while nurses, respiratory therapists, and doctors are trying to save the patient's life through the usage of medication. You become part of the chain of command. You're part of the chain reaction that saves a person's life. The person who is a mother, a father, a son, or a daughter to someone else. We can be skeptical about wanting the hero's journey. We deny it, but our instinct hunts us. It tells us we crave it and wish to possess it. Perhaps you know your higher calling, but you deafen it by pursuing pleasure. But nothing fills the void. Your paychecks from a job you hate become an emptiness in the soul. We can only change our lives if we accept the problem or what we need. Borrowing from the ideas of Ernest Becker in his book The Denial of Death, the depiction of heroism has persisted since ancient times, portraying the hero as one who could venture into the spirit world, the realm of the deceased, and return unscathed. This existential paradox can be termed the individual's condition within the limits of mortality. Human beings possess a symbolic identity that separates them distinctly from nature. They are symbolic selves, creatures with names and life stories, creators with minds that ponder atoms and infinity. They can mentally position themselves in space, contemplating their planet. This vast expansion, agility, ethereality, and self-awareness bestow upon humanity the status of a small god in nature. We have the choice to be gods or animals. Humanity exists in a paradoxical state, akin to a creature both bound to and transcendent of nature. The duality is evident. Man, often described as a mere worm destined for decay, simultaneously possesses the potential for godlike qualities. This perplexing dilemma unfolds as humans exhibit a towering majesty, sticking out of nature with splendid uniqueness, only to ultimately return to the earth, decaying and vanishing forever. This divide presents a terrifying quandary, a stark awareness of our mortality that lower animals, devoid of symbolic identity and self-consciousness, are spared. While animals operate instinctively, humans grapple with the contradiction of their divine potential and the inevitable decay of their physical existence. We often distract ourselves from this existential tension by conforming to societal norms, becoming reflections of others' expectations. Consequently, we may not truly know ourselves, avoiding a deep understanding of our potential. Philosopher Maslow noted that we fear both our highest and lowest possibilities, yet we are drawn to the godlike potential glimpsed in our most perfect moments. The human predicament lies in this simultaneous existence as both worms and gods, embodying a profound mystery within ourselves and our place in the universe. Each aspect of life becomes a puzzle, with the essence of our existence right near our hearts, remaining both familiar and strange. This complex nature elicits ambivalence, fascination, fear, and a perpetual struggle between the godlike and mundane within us. Changing character and personality means most people must die symbolically to experience rebirth. So many of you are dead and need to burn to ashes to rise anew. Rebirth was to cure the neurotic misery and introduce the patient to the familiar misery of life. But it does not come easy. To undergo rebirth is to confront, perhaps for the first time, the unsettling paradox of human existence. It entails being born not as a god but as a mortal being, or, as it were, a divine worm. Yet, this time, there is no shield of neurosis to obscure the inherent ambiguity of life. Thus, every genuine rebirth represents a genuine expulsion from paradise. For myself, it was the most painful yet beautiful experience I could recall. My existential, identity, and midlife crisis all made the perfect storm of depression and anxiety with realizing that my parents were symbolically dead, to know I was alone. I could not find mentors whose passions and dreams were mine, all while working 32 hours per week, being a full-time student, and composing my musical albums did not help. However, this was the birth of all my great musical ideas. From birth, we're assigned roles in a social hero system, conforming to paths that please others and meet their expectations. Instead of exploring our inner selves, we often cover it up to fit into standardized hero games dictated by chance, family ties, patriotism, or basic survival instincts. Sometimes, one strives to be a self-made, godlike figure in defiance of weakness. This individual refuses to be a mere pawn, choosing not to endure passively but to assertively create his destiny. However, this quest for self-assertion can lead to restless wandering, seeking distraction in great undertakings, traveling, or indulging in sensual pleasures to escape the complexities within. Yet, some fail to grasp or deliberately ignore the undeniable truth. You cannot run away from what you are, your failures, because they will follow you wherever you go. The war is within, not without. You know what story works and which doesn't. After you see the ending, the results determine what works. Therefore, judge someone by their life results, not by what they say. You have the pieces of a puzzle. You talk to people, observe how they behave, and then you ask, does this work? Yes, it does. Why? Because it's the right story. It's a story that works across hierarchies. You share similar stories of the pain and suffering of others. For example, strength and wisdom emanate from overcoming suffering. Your life starts having motifs. You self-overcome, and then you realize that tragedy gives life its negative meaning and overcoming its positive meaning. The world at your shoulders. I vividly recall the first weekend at work when I was the sole phlebotomist in the emergency room. At the hospital, patients must first be triaged upon arrival, It is the preliminary assessment of patients or casualties to determine the urgency of their need for treatment and the nature of treatment required. This determines how fast they see the doctor. If the patient needs to be examined for a few days, he becomes an inpatient. Still, to get admitted into the hospital, the doctor must do blood work to see how the patient is doing and determine a diagnosis. There was always a problem with a high volume of patients and the low volume of medical staff at the hospital. So if someone called off, it slowed down everyone with patient care. The first weekend I spent alone in the emergency room, it became my responsibility to draw the blood of every patient that came in for 8 hours for 2 days. It was hell. We received trauma patients back to back. To top it off, we also received STEMI and stroke patients during the course of the day. I would draw the blood of one patient, and 2 new orders for new patients would appear. It was literally like a hydra. Permission to higher authorities was requested to close down the hospital because there were no beds for inpatients. And the emergency room was low on staff on one of the busiest weekends of the year. Moreover, every patient in need of medium to long-term medical attention seeking a hospital bed had to pass through me. Without a phlebotomist, there would be no blood work. Without blood work, the doctor couldn't diagnose. Consequently, proper treatment for the patient would be compromised. While nurses could draw blood from patients, doing so for every walk-in, every emergency room bed, and every new ambulance arrival would significantly delay quality care for hours. During that weekend, I had the option to take the easy way out, claiming illness and going home without consequences. However, I chose to shoulder the responsibility for over 60 patients per day without complaining. I became the gatekeeper to heaven. If a patient wanted treatment in a hospital bed, they had to go through me by their blood. It was a challenging day, but it proved worthwhile as I could assist people on the verge of death. You may not save everyone, but being part of the chain that eventually saves those you encounter is a meaningful contribution. The nurturing, cohesive teamwork heals the wounds of the community. It is what nurses the flame of the sick and dying.